Hi, Rob, Wigan fan. The camera seems to be a bit slow tonight, so just sort of while the took a little bit, we've got the confirmation that Sam Tomkins has finally agreed to leave Wigan and sign for the Catalan Dragons. So I'm joined tonight by Super League Pod's Mark Illingworth. Mark, nice to see you. It's a shame that we're doing it, I guess. This special show for these reasons at least, but finally confirmed. What are your initial reactions to the announcement yesterday?
Yeah, do you know, we've known for so long, haven't we, that it was happening, but when waking up to, and going on your phone and seeing it confirmed, I don't know, I felt a bit hollow. I felt a bit, I didn't feel angry or anything like that because, you come to terms with it and all that, but yeah, it's still disappointing even though we knew it was happening. Do you know what I mean? It's again because he was the best player, I think, on the pitch on Sunday, and then
on Sunday he was
again.
I mean, it is that thing, like you just mentioned. I think we first discussed it on the week before Good Friday, so it was like the 24th of March. We started talking about it, and I think that's part of the statement that Chris Radlinski put out, isn't it? That shouldn't even have been discussed so early on. And I guess the relationship between Catalans and Wigan has always been a positive one. I think Wigan have always been a big promoter of the Catalans club, but there was a little dig obviously towards Catalans about the approach. What I thought was interesting and a sort of spanner in the works was there was a suggestion somewhere on social media that it wasn't actually Catalans that approached Sam, it was Sam that approached Catalans. If that was the case, how do you, I mean, you can almost see it, can't you, with McAlorum being there, the lifestyle.
I don't know who his agent is and if it's the same agent as McAlorum's as well.
It's Andrew Clark, I think.
Yeah, well, it is then the same agent as McAlorum, isn't it? So, so that possibly has played a role. So there might have been conversations that even Sam wasn't necessarily involved in. We'd be speculating on that, but it wouldn't be a huge shock if it's been that way. I think the thing is, Sam must have known that Wigan weren't gonna take up the option of his contract at the same level it had been at for next year. So at that point, then that anything could have stirred up. Then I suppose off that, I know. Then Radlinski said we offered him a 4-year deal on lower terms,
but still marquee, wasn't it?
Still good terms. Is reportedly. So that may, I don't know. I kind of think all that sort of stuff distracts from the real issue here, that we're losing one of our best two players.
Well, we are. I mean, I think let's go back to that that statement, if you like, from Chris Radlinski. Again, one of the discussions that we had here on the show over the past probably a month ago now was how this actually, I think that statement was crucial from Chris Radlinski, and that dictates how the fan base feels, I think, from this announcement. And I think I've said on a post that I did yesterday, I thought it was a fantastic statement. I thought there was clarity within it. You can understand why perhaps, again, it hasn't been announced until this date, because perhaps as far as Wigan are concerned, players can't be approached until the 1st of May. One of the discussions, contract negotiations have been going on. But it's interesting, Wigan offered him a 4-year deal. He signed a 3-year deal at Catalans with probably an option to go longer than that. Catalans have obviously offered him a marquee deal. So there's still that security of tenure, if you like, that was being offered by Wigan. They were still offering him a marquee deal, probably just less than George Williams if you read between the lines of what they were saying that they were offering.
Yeah.
But we were perhaps discussing about a month ago that this was perhaps a financial decision for Sam Tomkins. It looks like it hasn't been a financial decision. It looks like it's a deal. Do you think involved, and it is important, I guess, it's his last big contract. That's the way that how this has come about.
Yeah, I've lost you a bit, Sean, but
okay.
I think there is a financial element to it. I think he must be getting more at Catalan, or at least taking more home after tax or what have you from Catalan over the 3 to 4 years of that contract. You'd have to assume that otherwise you would have signed a 4-year contract rather than a 3-year contract with an option, I would say. So that's an element. I don't think the club with the statement threw Tomkins under the bus or anything like that. They were, they said you have sometimes things come to an end and you move on. So I think that was a positive thing from that side of the PR side of things. Because what we've got to remember is we've got a big game on Saturday, and we've got a big season ahead yet. We can win some more. We can win some more trophies with Sam Tomkins. He left us with a double last time, so let's hope he does the same again. Really, that's the best way to ensure that no one's going to be too unhappy about the thing when it all comes out the wash at the end of the year.
One thing that I was interested in doing, and I went back and found this, is this statement from 2013 when Sam originally left to go to New Zealand, and compare and contrast that. And it's very geeky to do. But one thing that I was keen, and what I thought was very strange, is there's no comment from Sam in the Wigan statement. Would you expect that, or do you find that odd as much as I do? The fact that Sam hasn't addressed the fans other than on Twitter last night.
I don't find it strange because he's going to another Super League club this time, whereas before there was an open door for him to come home, as it were. Whereas this time, I kind of feel like that's it. We won't see him in a Wigan shirt after this year. I don't think there's a way back, and he's going to play against us, which is is a different thing, really, isn't it?
It is, and I think what kind of helps with this, it's almost like a mourning process that we're going through, isn't it? This is like open mourning, and this is why we're doing it, is to sort of make everyone feel a bit better about it.
It's good to talk. It's okay to talk.
In Mental Health Awareness Week, let's talk.
Yeah.
But yeah, if anybody's got any comments on Sam's move, and I think it's still splits opinion, doesn't it? There's people like Martin, and put it on the screen, he's looking after his family, and there's people that basically just say, Tim here, I feel like Sam has betrayed traders a little. He's still being offered a great deal and chasing money. I feel he's given up his chances of silverware after this year.
That's one of the interesting things from the Catalan side of things and from Sam's side of things, talking about, it underlines the ambition of the Catalan side. Well, no, it doesn't. It underlines that they're putting most of their money into one player. And then when you throw in what Greg Bird's probably on this year and next year before he goes into the coaching role or whatever's lined up for him, it doesn't necessarily show that they're doing anything other than buying players in the last period of the career who've been very, very good players. So I don't know what ambition Catalan. I don't know if it shows Catalan are going to be more competitive, but he is. I suppose they are getting a top player.
Yeah, I mean, one comment I made to the Catalan media guy on Twitter was, they're getting a leader, aren't they? And they got an element of a leader in Michael McAloran, but Sam Tomkins, I think we saw on Sunday, perhaps more than anything, when O'Loughlin was off for the vast majority of the game on Sunday. He is a leader. He's a different leader to Sean O'Loughlin, and that is going to be part. I mean, let's talk about what are Wigan going to miss. Yeah, I mean, obviously we know he's a fullback. So the Zach Hardacre deal, you can only assume is one that's going to be announced whenever it's going to be announced. I don't think there's any doubt about Zach Hardacre. But from your point of view, Mark, what are Wigan missing? What are they going to miss next year in terms of Sam Tomkins? Because he's not the same player as he was in 2013, is he?
No, but is still. If he'd played like this last year, I think we would have kept the contract for next year as it is and offered him something good for a couple of years beyond that. I think it's just that he wasn't electric. In fact, no, he was. He was good for 2 years, but he wasn't on the pitch enough. He played 15 games last year, 16 games the year before, and that's not enough. And I think maybe that's where we've got to on it. But yeah, in 2009 to 2013, he made the dream team 5 years in a row. His first 5 years as a player in the Super League, because he played one game in the Challenge Cup in 2008. His first 5 years of his career, he made the dream team. No one's done that. That was incredible. He was, scoring at almost a try a game. He was over trying to get try a game for 2011, 2012, 2013. He won what? I've written down his honours, his personal honours. 2009 and 2010 Young Player of the Year. 2012 Man of Steel, 2010 RLIF Rookie of the Year, so that's the International Rookie of the Year, and 2010 Albert Goldthorpe Medal, sharing with Pat Richards. So that period, he was absolutely incredible and electric. But that post you've just popped up from Neil there kind of covers what he's become now. And there was a mention before about his goal kicking. That's been a great facet. Is our cleverest rugby league player as well. That's the thing.
I mean, I think if you could pick two instances for me in this past 6 weeks that sums Sam Tomkins up, it was his, I think, almost game changing 40-20 against Castleford. And yes, on Sunday it was his 40-20 against Hull KR when they were starting to get a bit of momentum. And that's something that he just didn't have in his game in 2010, 2011. He couldn't kick the ball that far. And obviously we're going to spend... Sorry, go on, Matt.
Sorry. No, you go.
No, go on. I mean, we're going to invest in money in that element, obviously, with Charlie Hodgson, and that's something that he's developed in his game. He's recognised that he hasn't got that pace, he hasn't got that ability to score at over a try in a game like him and Charlie were doing for so often in those early days. And he's developed his game, and that's something that I think when players come back from injury, you seldom see. And Sam Tomkins has been fantastic in developing his game. We'll get some of the questions as well, but carry on with what you were saying, Mark, and we'll pick some of these questions up in just a second. So just keep them coming through.
I kind of got 2 more points, I think. The first thing is he might have lost his try-again ratio, but since he's been back, this is the entire time since he's been back, even when everyone said he was absolute garbage and wasted money in his first year back, totally influenced by his injury situation rather than his performances, in my opinion. He's averaged better than a try plus an assist, if you combine the two, per game in his time since he's been back with us. And so he's maybe added a bit more shaping the play for the rest of the team, whereas before it was much more of this step. The kind of like the try he scored on Sunday. It was a lot more of those in his highlight reel back when, whereas now that you see a lot more flicking passes out and making space for other people and that sort of thing, which talks about his game management, his leadership of the team, his game control. And then, if you remember, the game when we basically knew this was happening and the start of the real coming to terms with it period was the Leeds game, because at the Leeds game was when Phil Wilkinson went on Sky and said, yeah, he's gone. And, you know, Phil Wilkinson couldn't go on Sky if he didn't know.
There's a reason why Sky asked him to go.
Sam Tomkins wouldn't do any interviews with him or anything like that. Like, he has done a really good open frank interview, apparently. That's going to be in the Observer this week, Wigan Observer. But he wouldn't have done any of those things if Phil didn't already know the truth at that point. And yet Sam scored that drop goal, that incredible drop goal to win us the game, and he celebrated like he'd won a trophy. He showed how much he still cares. And people who say get rid of him because he's not shown loyalty and commitment, I get the loyalty angle because we've dealt with his injuries, and one of them, rumour has it, was nothing but his own sort of fault, really. Softened by the fact that we won the grand final without him, but still. But he's still shown all that in the last 6-8 weeks since we've known he's been going. So I don't doubt he's going to show that for the rest of the year. And actually, I don't even know if he'll be protecting himself like people accused him of in 2013. I think he's going to play every game he can possibly play. And we're going to take some silverware. And that leads me to the question I've got for you, Sean, because you were the first person to ever sort of acknowledge this. And I've been thinking this the whole time. No. You were the first person to sort of say about his legacy with Wigan and question that this probably puts him into the bracket of great player, but not Hall of Fame player.
Yeah.
And you were the first person who flagged it. So I just wondered how you felt about that now, and do you think that if he leaves us with a couple of trophies, does he get that Hall of Fame level of recognition within the club, or does his reputation be tarnished because he's left us twice?
See, I'm torn a little bit on this, Matt, because like I said a few times, although I've got a lot of grey hair, I'm actually only 28 or something. So that in terms of the players that I've seen in my lifetime, Sam Tomkins and Andy Farrell, the two best ones that I've ever seen. You know, in terms of putting on the cherry and white, Sam Tomkins, 29 to 2009 to 2013. Those assists. For me, I think he will. I think time's a good healer, and I think he will be a Hall of Fame famer, and I think history will look back at him fondly. I think next year it'll be hard for a lot of Wigan fans, but I think 2, 3, 5 years down the line, he'll be remembered as a Wigan legend. And I think I've probably changed what I said a few months ago about that. I think that's exactly the point that you were making. Is his performances this season have attributed to that. He's a completely different player.
I said the same thing on Monday morning. You know, that you said, it's still in my head. This, is he going to be remembered as good enough to be put in our Hall of Fame? And I did a bit of research today to try and like get my head around it, because I'm so conflicted about that idea about his legacy. There's two things that really going to tarnish his legacy: the injury that he picked up at the back end of 2016 after the Warrington game in the Super 8s, and the comments after the Widnes game that went to that were sort of aimed at Bilko, weren't they? Who all Wigan fans have a lot of respect for, and those two things are going to tarnish it a little bit, and then a few other maybe falling outs with people along the way. I think that's over his career span. They're quite small in a way. I had a look at,
I would say.
I had a look at our Hall of Fame, and actually there's 4 players in the Hall of Fame that is going to end up having played more times for Wigan for, not fall too far behind them in terms of honours, really, considering the era he's played in compared to the era these guys played in. I'll list them off in a second. And he's going to end with about a 75% win rate in Wigan colours, and with over 150 tries in about 200 games. That's a pretty good record. Amazing record. So Andy Gregory, Frano Botica, Martin Afaya, and Ellery Hanley will probably. Ellery Hanley, I'm not certain on that one. It's like he played about 205 times for Wigan, whereas Sam Tomkins is going to finish at about that figure. So I think those are the players that they're in the Hall of Fame. Do you see Sam Tomkins in the same way you see those players from Sam Tomkins' era? We didn't win a trophy for 7 years before he played in the first team, and we didn't win a trophy in the 2 years he was away from us.
He was certainly a catalyst, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He's certainly the catalyst in 2010. I mean, that will always, obviously Michael Maguire will take obviously a lot of compliments, and rightly so for that. But again, Maguire was the person that took him from 6 to 1, and
that was luck more than judgment. That was Amos Roberts running into a goal against Wakefield, weren't it?
And Amos Roberts was playing probably some of the best rugby I've seen from a fullback. Unorthodox way, but it was exciting to watch Amos Roberts in that early part of the 2010 season. And you thought, as soon as he got injured against Wakefield, how on earth are we going to replace him? Well, it was a pretty good replacement, wasn't it? And he went on to be an international fullback from then on. So, yes.
And in the dream team 3 years in a row at fullback.
And I think what you said about us being, we are, although there's probably frustrations over the past 8 years that we haven't won as many trophies as perhaps we should have done. We've been in finals and not won the games, obviously, whether it be the Super League or Challenge Cup last year. But Sam Tomkins has played a big part of that. And, we're talking about, 3 Super League trophies, 2 Super League trophies in his era.
Two grand finals, 2 league leaders' shields, and 2 challenge cups. Obviously, there was a grand final that he didn't play in. That we won as well. So I'd say if we win another trophy this year, he'll be instrumental to us winning that trophy. So absolutely. I think it'll be hard to. That'll help his case to go down as a legend. That'll maybe override the leaving us twice thing and those sorts of things, and the other aspects that I mentioned before that kind of leave a little bit of unease. But Ellery Hanley didn't get on with everyone all the time, and he left us, us when he still had plenty of good rugby left in him. So
I mean, I think that's exactly. I mean, I put Tony's comment on here just a second ago. It's a different game now, but leaving twice means he's never quite. And I think that's always going to be the issue, isn't it? When we reflect back on him, he decided to leave twice. First time was to further himself in the NRL. And I don't think you can blame him for that. And the second time is to look after his family, and I don't think you can blame him for that. And I think when you look at those 2 reasons in isolation, I think they're good reasons, and I would say that. For me, I've changed my opinion. I think he will go down as a Wigan legend, and I think time will heal, and we'll look back fondly on Sam Tomkins in the cherry and white, and he will become a Hall of Famer eventually. But James has put interesting comment on here. Do you not think Maguire took away a brilliant number 6 in the making? Possibly.
Yeah, bloody Maguire. He didn't know what he was doing.
I mean, we're never happy. I mean, we've said this a few times, but us as Wigan fans are very difficult, aren't we?
I think James knows what he's doing there.
Yeah, I think so.
I think the testament to it is Sam has been such a good talent and such a good player that he would have been world class in any of either the half or the fullback position, and he made himself a world class fullback after already showing the potential to become that as a halfback, or a standoff half. So yeah. I'm
just reading Nathan's put a comment on here, which, like, if I put it on the screen, I think I'll put it on, but yeah, you can't see us if I put it on. But I think Nathan's probably hit the nail on the head, and is a perfect way to go forward. Moving on, life goes on. Chris Rodlinski said in his statement, players come and go. He stopped short of saying no players bigger than the club, but I think that's something that a lot of fans have said over the past few weeks, and sort of taken the Alex Ferguson approach, and sort of David Beckham, Alex Ferguson issue, and all the comments that came after that when he decided to get rid of that. And the football club and the rugby clubs, they go on. They still exist after players, and I'm sure we'll remember, like we said, we'll remember Sam Tomkins fondly, but the club goes on, and the next stages, I guess, are, and I think this is crucial for Wigan now, is these next couple of weeks are very, very crucial in how the Sam Tomkins deal, I think, is portrayed from a fan's point of view, in how Wigan's recruitment goes, but not necessarily recruitment, retirement. Yeah. Let's talk about, so we've got Bateman, Gildart and Hardacre. Do you think that for this, Sam Tomkins, sort of the bitter pill to swallow is made easier by the signing of Hardacre, the re-signing of Gildart and the re-signing of Bateman? Is that essential, do you think?
If you'd have told me at the start of the season or in the off-season that we were swapping Tomkins for Hardacre for 2019 and Hardacre's ban would be what it was and all of that, I would have taken that, because Zach Hardacre was one of the best 5 players in the competition last year. And Sam Tomkins, as much as he wasn't as terrible as people want to think he was, because he wasn't as good as he was before, he was still nowhere near the top 5 players in the league. So I would have taken that at that point. And trading it all off, you're getting a player who's 2 or 3 years younger, but comes with probably a bit more baggage, probably a bit more uncertainty around how consistent he can be able to contribute to the club than Sam has. But you can't say it's a terrible swap deal, in my opinion. Plus, I'm guessing Hardacre will be on less money than even what we offered Tomkins to.
Yeah, I mean, I think
so that gives us more space to do the other bits of business.
You take the emotion that's attached with Sam Tomkins away from this situation, and you sort of take the 30,000-foot view of this, and you go, right, we're losing a player that turns 30 next year who's got injury problems, who's on a marquee deal, and we're replacing him with a younger player who is man of steel, has been in the dream team, and is viewed by many as being a better fullback than Sam Tomkins internationally. Now, I disagree with that. I think Sam Tomkins is better than Zach Hardacre. He's a different type of player. That has viewed possibly as one of Ian Lenigan's best financial decisions, hasn't it? I mean, it's a shrewd decision. I mean, I don't think he intended it to happen this way, but it's got to be a shrewd business decision.
I think it's not a bad way of manoeuvring your cap around, yet keeping your talent level exceptionally high, and that sort of thing. It means someone else can get a marquee deal. Now Bateman wouldn't get it on the same terms that we were able to get it on for Sam, in terms of not being a club trained player. But if that's where the money went, I certainly wouldn't argue with that. And I tell you what, from Sunday's game, John Bateman's learnt to pass again. When he slipped into loose forward, particularly in the second half, he was throwing passes both ways, not just relying on offloads as his only way of passing the ball. So I really,
tell you what, he can take an uppercut as well. He can take an uppercut on his chin.
Oh,
that was one heck of a punch from Danny Tickle.
So if this goes towards getting Bateman the sort of money that'll keep him away from the NRL clutches, and you get Hardacre, wrap all that up, that'd suit me, really.
I think it would suit me as well. I think there's lots coming through here about Bateman. I mean, obviously send your comments through. I mean, John, there's been lots of rumours, I think, this week about League Express sort of issuing this return list, but they never actually released this return list. They sort of just skirted around the idea that somebody's mentioned here, Ryan Sutton. Could you tell me where we stand with Ryan Sutton? The ball handling prop is pretty rare these days. Sutton before Bateman for me. For me, Bateman before Sutton any day. I think Sutton's a very good prop, but I don't think I don't think he's as good a player as what John Bateman can be. I think John Bateman's a leader in the making as well. I think that's what's essential for us is retaining Bateman and potentially getting him in the captaincy. Probably a lock will do another 12 months.
There's a big 12, 18 months ago, I would have talked about Bateman as the future captain, but what happened sort of last June, was it? No, it was 2 years. Was it 2 years ago now? Whenever it was.
Yeah.
Sorry, 2 years ago. Before that, I would have talked about a future captain. Now, there's a journey to go on to get to that back to that position. But is again a driving force though about all the players and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, Gildart. Now, the interesting thing with the Gildart story is today and yesterday, the big story that was going around Saints was Nguama. Now, there's talk about he'll replace Barber at fullback, that sort of thing. But Nguama's a better centre or winger than he is a fullback, and that made me kind of have a glimmer of optimism with Gildart being out of contract but not on that list that League Express published, and the Nguama thing. I'm thinking he's probably just going to get the Barber money, but Lomax will slip back to fullback because he's a more than adequate fullback. Farge is a more than adequate halfback for Super League as well. I feel personally. So Saints have got options there that they can sort out, and Nguama will fill Ryan Morgan's spot in the side, and then Gildart hasn't got a place in that Saints side. This is the way I'm trying to think it through in my head to make sure that Gildart isn't going.
I mean, the thing that I've noticed since we mentioned Oliver Gildart, I mean, again, that was probably the pre-Good Friday show, and we sort of just put it out there as Gildart rumoured to Saints, and it was sort of laughed upon. And then all of a sudden the rumours got stronger and stronger, and I've seen even Oliver Gildart's mother on Facebook on some of the pages sort of commenting to people about that. And again, he's got to look after himself. He's a young lad, and we can never put ourselves in that position really. But it would be a strange one for Wigan to let Oliver Gildart. The one thing I can't understand with Oliver Gildart, and I've said this many times, is he's a Super League Young Player of the Year. How on earth has the Super League's Young Player of the Year been allowed to run his contract down to the last 12 months? Something doesn't sit right with that. And I think it's the attraction of the NRL that's possibly come into it, and that's perhaps not seen by the NRL clubs. West were interested in him, then dropped the interest. And that perhaps put Gildart back in a position of perhaps not as strong a negotiating position. And that could be the same now, like you say, with St Helens being linked with more players. Yeah. I mean, people are asking about what we think will happen. I think the three players on your screen now will be Wigan players in 2019. Would you, or do you think we'll possibly lose Gildart?
Bateman, I've been so back and forward on. I think when two months ago, I think I said to you I think he's gone. Then about a month ago, I sent you a message saying there's nothing to substantiate it, but I'm convinced now he's staying at the club. Yeah, and I just thought, why has something not been announced yet if he is staying with Bateman? But he wouldn't have to be on that list because he is contracted next year.
He is.
So yeah. So I don't know with that, but I still sort of lean towards the side of I think he's staying. I certainly think he's probably going to be here in 2019 for Bateman. Gildart, yeah. I still can't bring myself to cope with the idea of us losing our only real frontline top class consistent centre. Although I don't hate Sargents and like other people do, is not as good as Gildart.
I've seen a lot more criticism of Gildart over the past few weeks, and it's almost since the Saints rumour came about that people are perhaps picking up on elements of his game that they weren't too fussed about. Where
there was the Wakefield game where him and I think it was Burgess outside him in that game. They basically were a bit all over the place defensively, and Gildart didn't really contribute going the other way in that game either. And I think that sparked a bit of criticism, and then the rumours also came up. So maybe it's all rolled into the perfect storm there. He probably hasn't. I think the thing with Gildart is he probably hasn't got as much better this year as we were expecting. So maybe that's the criticism is probably the expectation. I think. No, Nguama has played fullback. That is true, and he played fullback for Fiji. So to Dawn's point, he has. I just think Saints are looking for a centre.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Obviously, we're coming up to Magic Weekend, and there is a game, and we might do a show later on in the week and preview that game. It depends on whether
I'm well excited for Magic. I'm buzzing for it still.
Well, one of the big things about Magic Weekend, and this was the case last year, wasn't it, with Ben Barber? Is it's almost like this is the weekend when clubs sign players. This is This is a time, and I can't remember who I was speaking to, but basically they said this is a time where you get all the club's owners and all the agents and all the free players in one place, and it's in Newcastle or wherever Magic is every year, and basically that's when the deals are agreed. And Ben Barber was the example last year, and perhaps we might get a bit more settled next week.
I think Raggy Chase happened, didn't he, as well before Magic last year? For
I think so.
And then got banned. And yeah, if you even go back as far as Jared Samet made his debut for the Crusaders at that Magic Weekend. Hat trick,
Sort of topic that seems to have sort of just happened is what happens is going. What happens if a Lachlan? Who do we have as captain? Now we've got Clubb or Farrell as suggestions. We Natson. I mean, for me, it would be John Bateman if John Bateman stays. But I take your point about the indiscretions 2 years ago. If O'Loughlin and Tomkins go, who would you like to see as a club captain?
Well, anyone who listens to the Super League pod knows just how much I love Liam Farrell. I think he's absolutely exceptional. Whether he's captain material, I'm not quite sure. I'm almost certain that the fan message boards will be going, it'll be Sam Powell because he's Wayne's love child. So I'm sure that name will get thrown into the fray. But he probably is one of those people who's in that conversation of a leadership group, though, even though a lot of people don't like that being the case. I think it's hard to say. I think it'll go back to like a leadership group sort of situation. And if you needed a club captain, if Tomkins wasn't there, I'd say Joel Tomkins would probably be the front line for the club captain in terms of experience, the familiarity with fronting up to the media and those sorts of things. And by the way, how good was that set up for Marshall's try by Joel Tomkins on Sunday?
It was very good, but I think the credit for that goes to, I think was it Luluai or Powell that was in dummy half at the time.
Gildart.
I think it was Gildart.
Yeah.
That was right in front of me as well. I was driving, I hadn't had a drink. But yeah, I think we've seen them try to do that move a few times, but he sort of went on to be the extra man, didn't he? And it worked really well. Let's finish off with the rumour.
I put Joel Tomkins and I put Joel and Powell in the conversation along with the Farrell, Bateman, and maybe Flower. That'd be the conversation.
I think that's a pretty good suggestion, isn't it? Going back to this leadership group and having those senior players, and Ben Flowers had his indiscretions as well in the past, obviously discipline problems. So you can see maybe him and Bateman being a part of that leadership group with the players that have perhaps kept their nose clean, so to speak, likes of Liam Farrell, who's perhaps the ultimate professional, really, isn't he? Or certainly seems to be. There's some rumours on here. I think Tim. It looks like Tim has a Wigan shirt on there, but it looks like he's in Perpignan, so maybe he is in Perpignan. Any rumours our side about Sean Wayne following Sam and Mickey Matt to Catalan? I've seen that come about on. I don't know, but I can't see there being anything in that. I think people are sort of putting 2 and 2 together and getting 5. I
think the aspect of that's most questionable is just how firm Catalan have been about Steve McNamara's position at the club, and that being a long-term appointment. Because otherwise you'd have fired him by now if you weren't keeping him for this year and next. You'd have fired him.
I think you're spot on. I think there's 2 parts to that, isn't there? There's the Sam Tomkins announcement being done when potentially Catalans could get relegated. Are they going to get relegated? No, they're not, because well, they're not.
At some point, McNamara is going to realise that if he plays Tony Gigo at 6 next to Josh Drinkwater and puts Mead at fullback, they might actually attack a bit and win some games. So I'm pretty sure that they'll get through the middle eights easy.
Yeah, they're not going to get relegated. And 2, why would Sean Wayne? Sean Wayne has been linked there, but I think it's sort of Wigan fans that are sort of saying, perhaps some hoping that there's some truth in it. Those that aren't big Sean Wayne fans, but genuinely, I don't think there's anything in it. I think people are just sort of going, there's this sort of the pension club, as I keep calling Catalans, perhaps might take Sean Wayne, and there's this rumour about Sean Edwards. Well, I think Sean Edwards has admitted that he's going for one of the head coach jobs at Harvard in Rugby Union. So no, Tim, I don't think there's anything in that. To be honest, I might be wrong. I don't know anything, but I would be very surprised if Sean.
We haven't had any. I haven't had anything of any sort of like non-message board sources about that one, if you know what I mean. So
yeah, neither. I mean, the only conversation I've had with somebody about that is that it's not happening. That's why I'm saying it's not happening. It is the honest truth. But why won't Catalan get relegated? I think 1, because they're too good, and 2, because I don't think the Super League would allow it somehow.
Well, let's knock those conspiracy theories on the head, because they can allow it for just 1 year and then then they're going to be changing the structure anyway if it doesn't change for next year. I think they won't get relegated because they're good enough not to get relegated. That's what I think personally.
Yeah, I think they're too good to get relegated, and they've got that option of obviously bringing in some players before the transfer deadline, before the split as well, and they're the kind of club that can perhaps spend a bit of money before Sam comes in as well and get another few decent players just to ensure that they stay up. But I can't see them going
there was talk on. There was talk on another one of the radio shows that Salford basically are looking to secure the top 8 as quickly as they can, and there might be a bit of a fire sale. So Catalan would be a club that might go and pick off a couple of them for the back end of the year. You would to round out your kind of thought process there.
Yeah, that's interesting, that, isn't it? You've got Junius, Robert Louis, people that are going to be on sort of decent wages at Salford that are potentially looking to. Might be looking for a bit of sun towards the back end of the year. So there's certainly legs in that, isn't there? Let's round off with 2 points, Mark. 1, Super League pod dropped this morning. I haven't listened to it, so to sort of give us a bit of a teaser of what's in this week's episode. Is it that man that's on the screen by any chance?
I do a lot of talking, and I'm with Tim, who's a Hull KR fan, so it's quite interesting that I had a Hull KR fan after we beat them at the weekend in the Cup. Obviously, we get a lot of fan views in about the 2 Cardfest games of the Challenge Cup weekend.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of talk about that on the show, some strong views aired all around on that. So that's the main part of the show this week is all that stuff. We've got a little bit of a fun quiz around the Magic weekend as well that you can have a go at and see if you do better than me, because I did terrible at the quiz this week. I was absolutely exhausted by the time we got to that part of the show last night. But yeah, that's my excuse. I'm getting it in there.
I'll definitely be having a listen tomorrow.
It's perfect. It's about the perfect. It's quite a long show this week as normal. It's about the perfect length for a drive to Newcastle, I would say.
Is it?
From Wigan?
Well, I was going to say, what about for me? If it's only half an hour, that would be perfect.
For you, it's 2 or 3 journeys. But
talking of Newcastle, one thing that I mentioned last week before the Hull KR game, and it's been announced today on the Wigan website, is this fan takeover, fan event that we're doing at the Centurion Bar. So if anybody's in Newcastle early enough on Saturday morning between 10 and 12:30, there will be hopefully a couple of players there. But there certainly will be the World Club Challenge Trophy and the Kenny Sterling Shield. So come to the Centurion Bar at Newcastle Central Station. I will be there. Hopefully not left in charge of the trophies, but I will be there. So come along, have your photograph with the trophies, and hopefully a player or 2, depending on their availability. But I'm sort of happy that that's being organised, and I'm happy that I will hopefully not be in charge of the trophies.
Yeah, it should be a good chance for people to get the views across as well about how they want things to be improved for match day experience and stuff like that for the club, won't it? So because there's going to be an opportunity for people to share their views with. You'll be kind of one of the leads on that, won't you? There for the fan engagement panel that there.
Yeah, so I guess that's the main point, isn't it? Come along, have your photograph with the trophies, but in exchange, tell us why you do come to the game, or perhaps why you don't go to the game, and if you do go to the game, how can the club make it better? And that's what the fan engagement board is all about.
What parts of the Magic weekend do you think we can replicate on our game days as well for Wigan Warriors as well? Is maybe one of the things that people could think about.
Yeah, I mean, we did have some great ideas at the Riversiders meeting from the Riversiders, and I'm sure over the next few weeks the club will start implementing some of those, and hopefully people will start seeing those changes and sort of attribute those changes to the fan engagement board and their suggestions that they came through to us. So yeah, if you're around on Saturday, hopefully see you on Saturday morning. I perhaps might see you at some point, Mark, over the weekend at some point.
I'm there all weekend, but I won't be there. I won't be there at 10:30 on Saturday, I don't think. But I'll be there in most. Yeah, and I'm the kind of person who watches a lot of the games. So if you're looking around in the stadium and you see me, yeah, I'll be wearing a Wigan shirt and a Pittsburgh Steelers cap. You won't miss me.
Okay. Fantastic. Let's we sort of labelled this as a Sam Tomkins show. So, any last words on Sam Tomkins before we go? I mean, I've said that I consider him will be a Wigan legend, and I think eventually will be in the Hall of Fame. But your sort of final thoughts on Sam before we go, Mark?
Well, I was thinking the final thing we could sort of look at is maybe, first of all, do we think he's had his defining moment as a Wigan player already in his Wigan career, or do you think that's yet to come? And what is the defining memory that you have of Sam Tomkins to this point in his Wigan career?
That's a really good question, isn't it? It's almost one that I should have prepared the answer for. I'd like to say no, he hasn't had his defining moment, because that means that we've got something good to look forward to before the end of the year, and that's the sort of optimistic part of me. But
I kind of feel there's going to be a kick that he makes that's going to be important.
Yeah, I mean, there are many highlights, and I mean, I think there's a few highlights that stick in my memory. Is the V sign to the Leeds fans was a bit of a highlight. His involvement in Joel Tompkins' try at Wembley, I think that initial setup, being an assist. I mean, I sort of go back to football again, and I remember seeing an interview with Eric Cantona, and somebody asked him what Eric Cantona's favourite part of playing football, his favourite memory of it was, and it was a pass. It wasn't a goal; it was an assist that he got, and I think that's very telling about Sam Tomkins and where he's possibly developed. But how about you? Defining moment then for Sam Tomkins? I'll say Wembley 2011 for me.
That's my go-to as well, really. I'd throw in there the drop goal against Warrington last year in the Cup in his first game of the season last year. That was pretty magical. And there's the 2012 season, the Good Friday derby that year, which, if memory serves, was the first. Was it the first at Saints' new stadium in 2012? And he played cracking that day, and the Magic weekend against them that year as well. That try's been run a few times through the Super League Twitter feed and stuff like that this week, hasn't it, on the social media side of things? And that's one of the most memorable tries for him.
Well, yeah, I think they're all sort of fantastic memories, and let's hope that there are some more before October's out. Mark, thank you so much for taking this time. I mean, over the past 2 days, the best part of 4 hours talking about rugby, and the vast majority of that talking about Sam Tomkins. So thank you for taking the time to come on here. And
no, thanks for having me on.
Thanks to everyone for your participation. You would have seen this on the thing. If you type Wigan in, it'll send you notifications of when we're about to come on through Messenger. So if you type Wigan in the comments, you'll get those. If you don't want them, don't type Wigan, otherwise it'll annoy you. But that's So we'll finish off with that. Thanks everybody for your involvement tonight, and Hope and Mark, and particularly in the Centurion Bar and we'll hopefully end Warrington's winning streak and continue our own. So good night, everyone.